Morning again. I'm humbled and I appreciate you tuning in on these videos. I think that the human race is at the point where we have to educate ourselves. We can't live under illusionary skies anymore. We can't continue to perpetrate unawareness and control and power and things like this. So this is another question and answer video. Again, I really do appreciate your responses. The first thing I'm going to respond to is a couple of questions and comments here. One is from an oncology nurse. I suppose it's an oncology nurse. And the other one is a response to St. Jude's. You know, I'm a spiritual guy. I'm a God man. That's the only reason I exist, in my opinion. I don't have any other reason. I've been through a lot and 40 years of this, and I understand that I'm hard on the medical community. If you sit behind or with me and you see what I see, and you hear what I hear from tens of thousands of people, you would have the same reaction, if not a lot worse. I temper mine because I understand that creation is the way it is, and the Supreme Being set it up, and it is what it is. And I like to think that the docs at St. Jude's are just unaware. And they think they're doing everything they can to help the children. Those few that they can save, okay. But I'm here to tell you that if you can't cure your cancer or your child's cancer with these health protocols, nothing is going to save them. Nothing. And you will save a lot more. Over 90% of the people that come here post-chemo and radiation that are chewed up with cancer from the chemo or radiation survive it and live. Only a small few don't. Now, I love you. If you're an oncology nurse, I appreciate your comments. But there's a lot of misinformation in oncology, and you only see remissions or people that show clear, only to come here months or a few years later with cancer cells everywhere from the chemo. Remember the lymph system, and the lymph system is systemic. And remember, this is all about chemistry. You can blame fungus, and you can blame emotions, and you can blame all these contributing factors, if you will. Most of these are effects. The emotions can be tied into shutting down the adrenals and kidneys and therefore affecting the lymphatic system. But don't be fooled. If you're an oncology nurse, get out. You're not helping people. Become a holistic nurse, and we'll show you a level of healing that'll blow your mind. But the stories and the cases I get here post-chemo is unreal. I have people that have been chemo, sat in chemo groups, getting chemo, and telling the stories of the pain and the suffering of those enduring this type of acid therapy, and then coming here and feeling so good, getting out of pain, getting off morphine. So I love you for your comments. But I'm telling you, if you don't think tens of thousands or millions of people are dying each year from chemo and radiation, you're misinformed. And I will tell you, these aren't my facts. These are facts from medical doctors that are professors at universities. These are neurosurgeons. I have a list of facts. You can Google Gary Knoll, look at his website, look at his facts. I hand it to Gary. For what he put together with some other medical doctors. But there's tons of it. I've got folders 2-3 inches thick of facts of the amount of deaths and injuries occurred through the allopathic community. So if you really want to help people as a nurse, get into the health field, the true health field. You can call it holistic, you can call it natural, but this is the health field. There's nothing healthy about allopathic medicine. It is a treatment-based and should be emergency cases only. Naturopaths should be the general practitioners because there's nothing, basically, a naturopath that does this kind of work at this level can't cure. Sometimes a lot of these naturopaths get caught up with digestive enzymes and probiotics, and you must be deficient in this or that. That's the worst kind of naturopath. Guys, you got to get your head up and get on top of the mountain. Understand the body's nothing but a bunch of cells and two fluids. So I'd like to think that those who are out there trying think they're doing good. But I can tell you as an oncologist, you know it's a killing field. There's many polls done by oncologists that what was one poll I read where 85% of, say, 1,000 oncologists polled would never take chemo themselves. Now what's up with that? Chemo is not as acidic as it was. Old chemo was 1 to 1.2. I've seen 1.2 chemotherapy. That's a little hot. That's a little cooler than battery acid. You don't come out, pour battery acid on your skin and see what you think. I took nursing, I took IV therapy. I've taken a lot of things in my life, allopathically. I've studied the heart inside and out, arrhythmias. I had my advanced life support credentials. I've done a lot of things. And I've seen a lot of things. But the people that teach me the most are you. My clients have taught me so much. Now, I want to answer some of these questions because that's what I'm doing this for, is to help you. This one question is, she has type 2 diabetes and what kind of fruit would be good to go on a fast? Well, you can try grapes first because it's a little more balanced. But lemons are very, very strong in terms of moving lymph. The reason we're always focused on the lymph is the suppressive and acidic nature of this system, being the sewer system, blamed for most of the problems. Now, when there's genetic weaknesses, you're going to enhance the function of cells. I don't want to take too much time on that because this needs a video to do this about genetics and how we increase the consciousness of a cell. Understanding in quantum physics that energy has intelligence, and that everything is frequencies of magnetic energy, and that chemistry is just frequencies of magnetic energy. Therefore, the cell is just frequencies of magnetic energy or consciousness. This kind of leads you into the spiritual side of life and understanding why Christianity uses the word omnipresence when it refers to the Supreme Being. Indian and Hindus already understand the word consciousness. And in physics, we understand and use the word intelligence. To understand that which invades and is all in the all. So, important to understand that why the raw foods and the herbs and the consciousness that they have, and the consciousness or magnetics or chemistry, you can talk about either one of those and their effect upon the health of a cell, because the ultimate issue is the health of a cell. Type 2 diabetes is always the adrenal gland, sugar metabolism. It's just the twin to hypoglycemia. Type 2 is really hyperglycemia. And that's sugar metabolism, cortisol levels in the body. By the way, if you're trying to check your steroid levels and hormones by blood or saliva, forget it. Not really accurate. So any fast, I don't care, do all fruits. Even though a fruitarian lifestyle is a lifestyle for Homo sapiens. We're the most advanced neurological species on the planet. Though a fruitarian lifestyle is a lifestyle for Homo sapiens. We're the most advanced neurological species on the planet. I think I've told you about some cases where, one case, the ambulance brought her here, and she was an advanced MS case. And she was prone, stiff, flat on a stretcher. Couldn't turn her head to say, "Hi, Robert," stiff as a board. Oh, I'm only about that thick. And so I put her all on fruit. And 2 months later, she could wheel herself in the wheelchair, and she could feed herself, sit up, all those things. So I wanted to put more muscle on her because she was so thin. And generally speaking, I raised horses growing up, and we used alfalfa for muscles. You know, I knew Ann Wigmore, and I asked her, "Why did you pick wheat? Alfalfa is a superior plant," and Shackley knew that. Alfalfa is an incredible plant, particularly for muscle building, minerals, you know, things like that. So I put her on a green drink, and I put her on a salad. And you know what happened to her? She couldn't move anymore. She went back to being an invalid. So I put her back on fruit. And you have to understand the power and the magnetics fruit has to turn on the body's nervous system, especially Homo sapiens nervous systems. Someone asked me a question about wormwood. You know, one of the problems that we face here is the toxicity or the concept of toxicity in herbs. And this is true, there are a few. Dr. Christopher has a herb in his book called Peruvian bark. I've never contacted them, but they need to remove that herb. In low dosages, they claim that it's a neurological rebuilder. However, it is where we get quinine. And I overdosed on that and ended up in a coma. And this is a major neurotoxin. Outside of that, you know, not too many herbs are toxic. You'll see in my lymphatic formulas, I use poke root, blood root. This blood root will pull a tumor right out of your body. It's what black salve's made from. But I've used gallons of these on people, on little old ladies that are 80 years old and 80 pounds, and never had any toxic effects. Wormwood, I don't use that extensively. I use it for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, to kill the major, bigger worms in the body. They say it's good for cancer, but I can tell you, I don't use it extensively, but it should be used for a couple of weeks or a month to kill any worms, flukes, the bigger boys, you know, tapes, things like this. Another question this lady has, I assume it's a lady, could be a gentleman, sorry. Carrot juice and eating fruits have changed my skin color. Yeah, I mean, you know, carrot juice has been known to do that with the keratin. I'm not a real fan of carrot juice. I mean, that was back in the 60s and 70s. Dr. Jensen woke up to high PSA levels of 1600 and found out he had cancer all through the lower back and prostate. Put himself on a 3 or 4 month carrot juice fast. I've got the video. He videoed himself. But that is an inferior juice, and it's not a good detoxifying juice. It's a starch. And if you Google 256-year-old Chinese man, and just Google that, and you'll come up with this Chinese guy that lived 256 years old, died in 1933. And he claimed he never ate anything that grows below the ground. Well, that's starch. And starch, it really isn't healthy for anybody, to tell you the truth. Although give a carrot to a horse, they love it. This gentleman claims his shoulder hurts every time he drinks apple juice or takes herbs. Well, that's probably connected to your GI tract. You know, your gut tissue, your GI tract, and especially the colon, is like an electronic or a neurological board that infiltrates the whole body there. And particularly even the stomach. The stomach is, or the solar plexus area, is the ganglia for the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is the sympathetic, parasympathetic. That runs everything. That's your all involuntary functions of the body, including breathing, is controlled by that system. And that system is controlled by the neurotransmitters of the adrenal glands. Even reaches up in the brain, the jaw. And it's all this involuntary movement. That's very important because we're going to be talking about that nervous system when it comes to autism and the tremendous adrenal problems we face in children and the kidney weaknesses. And you're seeing this on TV all the time now about kidney transplants. And they're taking it from the same genetic tree. I find there's so much ignorance in allopathic medicine about that. It's not even funny, no offense. But it's time we raise ourselves up out of this. It's a cesspool of ignorance here. Digestive enzymes. Yeah, I know. And people talk about systemic enzymes. I don't mess with enzymes. I just don't take the time. If you feel better on them, I don't recommend digestive enzymes. I just don't recommend messing with God. You'll be healthier and you'll feel better and more energetic if you forget that treatment-based thinking and go into detoxification, the golden key that unlocks the door. And I'm going to do another video following this one on the healing crisis and what to expect when you go through this, because some people are going through some hard times. And we're pretty aggressive detoxifiers, but some people are very toxic. I've got babies on these programs that don't go through too much, and then I have some that go through a lot. We have all the way to 100-year-old people on these programs. I pulled people out of nursing homes for years, although some families didn't appreciate that. This gentleman writes me, I think it's a gentleman, it could be a female. Oh, it's a female, sorry, sweetheart. About her daughter, 13 years, born without some permanent teeth. I think you're going to see a lot of this. I think if you look at the women and their pelvic areas and you look at the skeletal structure of man, you can tell that the pituitary is really going in people because people are getting taller or they're stunted growths, they're not growing properly. The parathyroid, which deals with calcium utilization of the body, is so weak that they're not developing their connective tissue or their skeletal tissue or teeth. In this case, I would keep her on raw foods. I would definitely hit the pituitary with a glandular, and I would hit the parathyroid with a glandular, and really start building up her body's ability to utilize calcium and to rebuild structure. There's an etheric, it's kind of like the phantom limbs. These poor kids coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. I mean, I was in the Vietnam era. It's all sad stuff, you know, war and killing each other. It's all sad stuff. But blowing off arms and hands and legs, this is just sick to me. But when you talk to someone that's had a limb missing, they have what's called a phantom limb syndrome, where you can actually feel the limb still there. Well, it is, etherically. And so this is where you can get tissue to regrow. I've had a lady came in with a thyroidectomy. They left a little piece of it left, and I got the whole thyroid to grow back. See, the body can regrow back tissue in a high alkalizing, high energetic medium. You can't rebuild tissue in an acid medium. You can't cure cancer in an acid medium. Cancer isn't a disease. It's a damaged cell by acids. These aren't diseases. And if you can get out of this concept of diseases, you'll do yourself a tremendous favor. This is, man's locked into that stupidity, and there's nothing disease-oriented. There's decay, but acids create decay. And understanding the rule of acids would go a long way to help people understand what's going on here. So this is what you would need to do. I would take her in at 13. She's going to have kidney and adrenals. She's going to have lymphatic problems, neurological problems, weaknesses because of the adrenals. And so watch her blood pressure. She could run low blood pressure. Blood sugars are common problems with kids now because of the adrenals. And so it goes on and on and on and on. This is why health and regeneration are the only focuses that will pull man up out of this decay, this genetic decay, and those that are in a cellular decay from high acidosis of years of suppressing their kidney and adrenal functions. It's the only way to get out of it. It's the only way to find a cure. You're not going to find a cure by treating symptoms. You sit by me in my desk, and I invite you, oncology nurse, to do that. You can come in and sit and see another side of this. You'll want to throw up or you'll get very mad. It's under your eyes there, my friend. That's kidneys, no question about it. Weak muscle. This is totally kidneys. Fix the kidneys, the bugs will go away. Endometriosis. This girl's from Portugal. I had a clinic in Lisboa, where you are, Lisbon. And I love Portuguese people, and I love Portugal. It's great. The old castles are great. But I didn't overly care for Lisbon. I mean, you know, very narrow streets and funny though, but great, great people. I love it, and I love down in the South Seas that are Portuguese too. I have a good criminal defense attorney that's Portuguese. Yeah. Endometriosis. What do you think? Well, going back to the lymph system again. You're going back to the lack of your ability to filter your lymph system in the endometrium wall and all through your body, in the uterine wall, I mean. And so you see this everywhere. And in time it sets up fibroids or ovarian cysts or then uterine, ovarian, or cervical cancers. So the only way to find remedy is to move those lymphs, get your kidneys filtering, get your adrenal glands up, and get this on. If you're running high estrogen levels and your periods are irregular, and I will do a video on female problems. That's coming, I promise. I got so many of them to do. But you never want to take an estrogenic formula. I don't make an estrogenic formula with black cohosh, anything like that, because too many women have too much estrogen. There's a lot of estrogenic compounds out there. Soy is very estrogenic. A lot of pesticides, herbicides are estrogenic. So I don't recommend going in that route. Most women, you have to understand, ovarian functions are controlled by the pituitary, FSH. So a lot of times you have to go in and fix your endocrine glands. Well, let's go back. All the body is a bunch of cells and two major fluids. I don't care if you're talking about ovarian tissue, pituitary, hypothalamus. I don't care if you're talking about thyroid. As a matter of fact, when you talk about menopause, you're talking about thyroid problems. Hot flashes is thyroid. However, the pituitary controls the thyroid. So you always want to work on pituitary and thyroid when you're in menopause. You should not have good menopausal symptoms, strong ones. Now, women's periods are interesting. I'll cover that, but fruitarian women shouldn't have much menses at all because your menses is generally regulated by how toxic you are. And when you're very clean as a woman lymphatically, you only spot. So really, we see a lot of problems in our lives directly related to the health of tissue. So, yeah, endometriosis, all this stuff's very curable stuff. We have clinics popping up in Romania. We're working around the world in different places to get some clinics going, but we have even a bigger project yet that you guys will really love worldwide. And think Disney type things, big stuff, big stuff, and this should be exciting for all of you. I'm going to need a lot of help. Yeah, another lady was asking me about clinics in London. You know, I train a lot of people worldwide and a lot of physicians. I just trained some medical doctors from Africa. They're opening up clinics in Africa. So hopefully as we grow, I do have a lot of clients in London. One lady just moved to Canada from London, was a healer for me, but I don't know. You'd have to ask Jennifer in our office. She controls all our practitioners. Is there anything in the world better tasting than freshly juiced cantaloupe? This guy really likes freshly juiced cantaloupe. You know, I love it all. I tell you what, the flavor of fruits and berries and melons when they're ripe and they're picked good, I'm telling you, there's nothing like them. Grass doesn't even fit in the picture when you're used to having these beautiful tasting fruits. This is where all the flavonoids, this is where all the nutrition is. You notice when you eat grass, you have to eat a ton of it, but when you eat fruits and berries and melons, you can get full quite quick. This guy's Italian, likes pizza. You know, I like the smell of pizza, but when I take a bite of it, my body goes, oh, that's not good. Yeah, fungus. A lot of people have fungus in them, and fungus in the nails, and like fungus is, of course, dealing in fermentation. People that have high fungal problems either have weak adrenal glands, and they'll see moles growing all over their bodies, and this is because they're not metabolizing sugar. So fermentation is a big factor, and you need yeast to fermentate sugars and ferment sugars, and then you have the lymph system. The other side of this is sulfa drugs, and if I have not touched on sulfa drugs before, what another crime is the use of sulfa drugs. And yet here we're pushing glucosamine, chondroitin, all these sulfur compounds. Sulfur's not healthy. There's nothing healthy about sulfur. People push cruciferous and cancer. Why? There's nothing healthy about sulfur. Sulfur is an irritant. It's a gas. It absorbs into the GI tract and stays there. It blocks lymphatic suppression, and it is a fungal proliferant. If you, in one way, sulfur is an aphrodisiac to the fungal community. I've got a medical doctor friend that runs a hospital in San Diego, and we look at a lot of sulfur in people. It turns your eyes orange. So if you get a real strong mirror like a 15X and use a light, if you have orange in your eye, that's sulfur. And that's a lymphatic suppressor and a fungal proliferant. And those two things, you have a lot of problem. I don't have too many RA or rheumatoid arthritis cases that do not have a lot of sulfur in them. So very serious, and fungus leaves uric acid crystals. So this is a bit of a problem here, because you can have a lot of gouty problems and a lot of pain from high fungal problems, and then depression and confusion, and there's a lot of problems. But people blame everything on fungus, and it isn't true. But they definitely, when in an overgrowth scenario, not good. So to get relief in the nails, you've got to move those lymphs, get your adrenals up so you metabolize sugar and get away from starch. Pizza is why you like pizza, man. Pizza is a great fungal food. You got your white flour, your fermentation of the flour, and you got your cheese. Those are the two things moles goes on like that. And people blame fruit for fungus problems. And I have to laugh, because if in your kitchen, if you put on your kitchen counter a handful of grapes, a piece of cheese, and a piece of bread, which one of those three things grow mold on them first? Of course, it's going to be the cheese or the bread, because they're already fermented. Grapes are not going to grow mold on them until they start to ferment. Now, I appreciate this comment by this sweet thing. She doesn't mind my longer videos, and I don't know how to make short ones, honey. I tell you, I'm used to speaking hours on end, and so, like I said, I have my own school. I speak for weeks at a time, so it's hard to get over to you what I need to in short videos. But I will say that I do repeat a lot the lymph system and the kidneys and adrenals, and once you catch that, boy, you've got it. And you will certainly help yourself out tremendously. And I don't mean to offend anybody, including this oncology nurse. I don't. But you have to sit on my side, and you will change your mind, because there's so much propaganda and brainwashing out there. You don't want to be a victim of that. She asked me what's my thought on premenopause and this sort of thing. Again, thyroid, pituitary, getting the body healthy. I think if you focus on getting the body healthy, I had a lady yesterday, she had actually come to me 2 years ago, got so much fear-based that she went chemo, and now she's got cancer in the bones. Very common. You know, chemo seems to always create or break down bone cells and create bone cancer or leukemia. These are two common things you get from using chemo. I had a young man that had only cancer in his knee, and his oncologist said, well, I could cut off your leg, but let's do chemo first. Well, he should have cut off his leg. So he did chemo, and when he was done, he had cancer in four different skeletal areas. And it's like, you know, come on. So we have to grow up. We got to get out of this sort of thing. Pituitary, getting the body healthy. I think if you focus on getting the body healthy, I had a lady yesterday, she had actually come to me 2 years ago, got so much fear-based that she went chemo, and now she's got cancer in the bones. Very common. You know, chemo seems to always create or break down bone cells and create bone cancer or leukemia. These are two common things you get from using chemo. I had a young man that had only cancer in his knee, and his oncologist said, well, I could cut off your leg, but let's do chemo first. Well, he should have cut off his leg. So he did chemo, and when he was done, he had cancer in four different skeletal areas. And it's like, you know, come on. So we have to grow up. We got to get out of this sort of thing. There's a much better way. Kids don't have to look like they're suffering and lose their hair. That's unhealthy. You're trying to use unhealthy practices on an unhealthy body and a genetically weak body, and you don't understand how to get people healthy. If St. Jude, you're listening and you want to get people healthy, you will adapt these health programs and you will be amazed. It'll blow your mind, and you'll be able to save 90% of the kids instead of losing them. Because I tell you, you might think that most people survive chemo, and you would be smoking something in the back room. Okay, now, that's all I'm going to do on this question and answer video. But as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to shoot another one here on the healing crisis, because there's one question about it. And I think it's real important that you have some understanding of the healing crisis. I'm sure most of you do by now. But important because medical doctors don't understand the healing crisis, and important to understand that. So I thank you for this morning listening. I'm sorry if I offended anybody, but I love you all. Time for us all to get healthy and live as one and start having a peaceful, joyful experience with each other and quit hurting each other. So for the day, have fun and enjoy yourself and be in the now. Be here now always. Love you.